Hello everyone. Today we're diving into a topic that makes people spend years on expedition, live in tents, eat canned stew, and genuinely celebrate a rock with a scratch on it. We're talking about ancient finds in Kazakhstan, yeah, and why a single tulip carved on a cliff or one a copper cauldron can flip our idea of the past on its head.
If you think archaeology is just digging up old bones, well, you're basically a third grade textbook. In reality, it's a massive puzzle: cultures, rituals, myth, contact between people, and trade routes. And sometimes all of that pops up as one object pulled out of the ground.
Today we have two main stories. First, a petroglyph of a strange tulip in the Jilta Mountains, a very unusual thing to see in ancient rock arts. Second, an old copper cauldron of the Semiracha type found in a mound together with a sacrificed horse in central Kazakhstan. Both finds show two moments in time that connect the steppe with ancient cultures and with us today.
Let's start with the basics. When archaeologists say a find, they don't mean we found something old, cool. A find is a piece of information, like a file without a label that still needs decoding.
Yeah, an object can be beautiful, unusual, shiny, whatever, but for an archaeologist, something else matters more. Where it was found, at what depths, what was near it, how it was lying, what was above it and below it. That's called context. Lose the context and the find turn into the flea market souvenir.
Region to study old landscapes. In Jiltau they found big rock walls covered with drawings, animals like ibex, horses, camels, people, hunting scenes, strange shapes. Some drawings are clear, some make you guess what the artist wanted to show. Botanists look at one carving and say it was Shank's tulip, a wild tulip that later helped create the garden tulips we know today. This is rare for the Bronze Age. People usually carved animals, people, and chariots, not plants. A detailed flower carving is special. Similar tulip shapes are found on objects from ancient farming cultures in Central Asia, where the flower was linked to goddesses and spring rituals. So this one tulip tells us the steppe and farming cultures knew each other and shared ideas.
And here's the fun part: different finds give different kinds of information. Pots and bones, what people ate, how they cooked. Jewelry and weapons, status, style, aesthetics, technology. Petroglyphs, myth, religion, worldview. Cauldrons, sacrificial pits, special complexes, rituals, and cult practice.
Our episode is exactly about two find that aren't just pretty objects, but really case to myths and rituals. A flower, one stone, and a cauldron with heart stack aren't random. They are deliberate choices made by people of that time.
In short, not exactly a weekend getaway. No shopping, no malls, you can't even grab a coffee to go. But it does have the thing that makes people climb these rocks thousands of years later: rock art.
The cauldron and the horse were part of a ritual, not just trash. It was all planned. A horse was sacrificed. The cauldron was used as a sacred object. Parts of horse gear were placed inside. The cauldron was made with the lost wax methods, first from wax, then covered with clay. The wax mellowed out and metal parts inside. It was large, about a half a meter wide, about 20 liters in volume, made from high quality copper. Inside were pieces of a brittle, cheek pieces, rings and plates, bronze decorations, and carved animal head pieces called leopard griffins.
A petroglyph isn't just a drawing, it's a message. A Bronze Age person couldn't post a story online, so they took a stone and hammered a scene into a cliff. Hard work, slow process, but the recording lasts for thousands of years.
And they didn't carve randomly, they chose the rock. Often, these were places already considered special, for example, near a trail, by a water source, or on a hill with a view. Riddles, sacrifices, gathering could happen there.
Some laser straps survived. They were cut and folded, showing the set was taken apart on purpose to fit inside the cauldron. It was probably a collection of the best pieces from several sets of horse gear. Nearby is a cemetery with big royal mounds from the same time, so the cauldron was part of a larger ritual and funeral complex. One idea is the people who buried it were moving to a new place and brought their traditions with them. The cauldron acted like a ritual passport to keep their culture alive. In Saka culture, cauldrons were used for group meals, ritual drinks, memorial ceremonies, and sometimes buried as offerings. The Kazakhstan cauldron marks the end of such a ritual. A horse is sacrificed, its gear is taken apart, the best pieces go into the cauldron is buried, a mound is built above.
On one of the shelter slabs, archaeologists found a composition like three concentric circles with 20 rays coming off them, and a straight cross under the circles, and a figure made of complex linear nervi, and a sign that looked like an S with colors ends. Interesting.
Sounds like the logo of an occult club.
Every ancient item has two stories: the person who made it long ago, the person who found it today. Archaeology is not like the movies, it is tense, hot sun or cold winds, walking for miles, a lot of notes and drawings. A find often looks like a scratch on a rock or a lump of dirt, but after cleaning and studying, it becomes a full story. Ancient people had their own symbols, scientists have their own language. We today have a simple language of stories and pictures, so we are translating history from one language to another.
But the main celebrity in the story isn't even from that composition.
Right. A little farther away, two massive slabs separate from the main cluster of images. They found a plant. Not a lazy stick and dot, but a detailed depiction. For example, a clear stem, two long leaves, a bud, and a round bulb at the bottom.
Does this matter? The step was not empty, it had rituals, myths, and connections. Known this gives meaning to the land. Holding something 3000 years old makes you feel how big history is. The tulip still grows, horses still graze, people still gather around big pots, cook meat, and celebrate spring. The details change, but the basics stay the same.
And it still grows there today. In spring, the steppe turns into a tulip field, beautiful enough to crash the social media.
When many signs match, it becomes a strong idea, not a guess. Shank's tulip grows in the area. The caravan looks like it. Similar symbols appear in nearby cultures. This is a chain of evidence. The tulip shows how ancient people look at nature and how one flower became a symbol. The cauldron shows the importance of horses, status, belief, and how valuable things were buried as offerings.
The obvious question: why would a Bronze Age person carve a flower into stone? It could be a symbol of specific deity, a sign of spring festival, or a maker of territory or scared place, and maybe of a more complex myth we can no longer reconstruct.
One idea is that the tulip could be linked with the female deity, fertility, spring renewal. A flower comes out of the ground after winter is a sign that cold is over and life returns.
La region to study old landscapes. In Jeltsao they found big rock walls covered with drawings, animals like ibex, horses, camels, people, hunting scenes, strange shapes. Some drawings are clear, some make you guess what the artist wanted to show. Botanists look at one carving and say it was Shank's tulip, a wild tulip that later helped create the garden tulips we know today. This is rare for the Bronze Age. People usually carved animals, people, and chariots, not plants. A detailed flower carving is special. Similar tulip shapes are found on objects from ancient farming cultures in Central Asia, where the flower was linked to goddesses and spring rituals. So this one tulip tells us the steppe and farming cultures knew each other and shared ideas.
If we jump forward many centuries, in traditional Kazakh beliefs, the period from mid-February to mid-March is a time of struggle between winter and spring. The cold is still there, but the first flowers appear.
Yeah, that's when you start seeing in the steppe like snowdrops, Nauruzgi, wild tulips, skaldak, and their appearance is a sign of Nauruz is coming, the new year in the spring cycle. In Jetsu today, they even revive a tulip festival. People go out of the steppe, watch the bloom, hold concerts, parades, and if you look at the true archaeological glasses, you get a line like this: Bronze Age to Perigolic of tulip to a forgotten ancient ritual and to modern spring celebration where the tulip is back at the center.
It's kind of wild that you can stand in the spring steppe, look at living tulips, and realize that 3,500 years ago, someone looked at basically the same scene and thought, this matters, I need to carve it in stone.
If the tulip on the cliff is more about symbols, spring and goddesses, our next story is about warriors, horses, and rituals.
We're moving forward in time from the Bronze Age into the world of early nomads, Saka, Scythians, late Saka tribes. Mounted warriors, complex mounts, rich burials, the cult of the horse, and animal style in art.
Now we're gonna talk about where the cauldron was found. The location is the Tali Historical and Archaeological Park in the Shet district of the Karaganda region. Researchers excavated several mounds there. One of them turned out to be not a typical grave, but the late Saka period sanctuary. The site was named Kızıljartas.
Inside, there wasn't a human burial, like people expect. There was a pit with a sacrificial horse, and next to it, a three-ledged copper cauldron packed with metal objects.
The cauldron belongs to the so-called Semiraj type. A distinctive form, it is hemispherical body, three curved legs, often shaped like animal legs or paws. Two horizontal handles, sometimes also vertical loops, raised cord, band, or ridges around the body.
So basically, a bronze barbecue from ancient times, except for rituals, and without kebabs.
Okay, manufacturing technology. It's believed that cauldrons were cast using a lost wax model. First, they made the future cauldron of the wax, then coated it with clay, dried it, melted out the wax, and poured molten metal in the cavity.
So, this isn't a random blob of metal that fused together. It's real engineering for its time, especially considering they had no 3D printers and no CAD drawings. When archaeologists opened the cauldron and began searching what was inside, they didn't find porridge, ash, or water. They found a set of metal objects, mostly connected to a horse tack.
Inside, they found fragments of beads, cheek pieces, side elements of the bridge that fixed the bead in the horse's mouth, rings, plates, pins, and bronze overlays and plaque used to decorate straps, and a whole set of shaped pieces stylized as animal head. And to understand when all this happened, research did radiocarbon dating, a sample from the horse bone and a sample from the cauldron suit. Both gave an interval roughly from the 4th to the 2nd century BCE, the late Saka era when the steppe region were involved in large-scale processes, migration, wars, and contacts with neighboring powers.
Before Simiricha type cauldrons were mostly known from Jitsu and the Sikul region, but here is central Kazakhstan, meaning either that the local elite adopted the fashion and forms, or a group actually came here from Simiricha and brought its rituals, its cauldrons, its leopard griffins. So, okay, cauldron horse gear, leopard griffins, but what were they actually doing with this
The
cauldron?
Kızıljartas cauldron seems to mark the completion of some important ritual period. A horse is sacrificed, its tack is removed and disassembled, and the pieces are placed inside the cauldron. The cauldron is lowered into a pit, and everything is covered, and the mouth is raised above it. So it's not about economy, not about hiding from enemies. It's a straight up conversation with gods or ancestral spirits in the language of things. Let me be that annoying guy and say, maybe we're just imagining things. Maybe someone carved a tulip because they simply like tulips, and they buried the cauldron because it cracked and they didn't want to throw it away. Overinterpretation is always a risk, but archaeology isn't one person's fantasy. It's comparison with dozens of other sites, accounting for historical context, analysis of metal composition, bones, soils. Team works across specialists, archaeologists, anthropologists, botanists, and metallurgists.
When multiple methods point in the same direction, it's not a fun theory, it's a grounded hypothesis. For example, Shanks tulip really grows in the Zhelta area. Its botanical appearance matches the petroglyph. A similar flower shape appears in ancient oases on cold objects. That's a chain, not a single fantasy. The tulip showed us how ancient people saw nature, how they single out one plant and elevate it to a symbol, how one rock carving can lead to a discussion of goddesses, spring rites, and cultural connections. The cauldron showed us how important the horse was, how things express status, faith, and memory, how a ritual could end with the most valuable object not being kept but sent into the